Hey, so I wanted to come on and share some of my stories, some of my experience that I have had with grief, loss, and what happened after my husband was taken off life support. If you have or have not seen some of my shorts, my husband was shot on November 21st, 2023 in the 7900 block of South Oglesby in Chicago, Illinois. He was, what is that word? Diagnosed as having a catastrophic brain injury, and he was taken off life support on November 24th, 2023. And I don't know if you guys have heard of, but I know I have never heard of a catastrophic brain injury until this. I know I've heard of traumatic brain injuries and sometimes people coming back from traumatic brain injuries, but I never heard of a catastrophic brain injury. And when you think of a catastrophe, you know there's no coming back from that. But the following video that I'm going to show is just a little snippet. It's part of a story of what I experienced in the aftermath of my husband being taken off life support. There is a whole lot more to the story. But what I'm about to show you, they are little snippets of the videos of my Ring camera put together. Now, it didn't record the whole thing. I think this whole entire incident took about 2 hours. 6:30. Yeah, I think it was about 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and 30 minutes or whatnot. But I just want to come and talk about the experiences that people might not necessarily talk about of the outlandish things that happen after somebody passes and how people act, and then other people excuse their behavior as grief, and it's not grief. So check out this story. Now, everything that happened when my husband was in the hospital and afterwards definitely took a toll on me. There was a lot that went on, and I know everybody knows what goes into planning a funeral for a loved one. This was a agreed upon meet with this individual. As you can see, they have balloons because my daughter's birthday is the next day. They were at my house for about 30 minutes, and then as you guys can see, the cops pulled up. Right after the cops pulled up, you'll see some cars slowly creep up behind them. So when the cops came to my door, they asked me if I was my husband's wife, and I said yes. And then they proceeded to ask me when I was going to let his mother get his items. I was confused because this was our marital home. This was where my husband and I lived. His mother never lived at my house. And of course, this didn't make any sense. There was no criminal matter. And then they tried to claim that there was some dispute that they were coming to handle. And I was confused because there was no dispute. Nothing of the sorts existed. The individual that came to my house was the only one that knew I was home at the time. They were the only individual that I was speaking to because of things that took place while my husband was in the hospital as well as afterwards. So nobody else knew I was there. When I obtained the 911 call report, the address that the 911 call was made from was up the street. And I also obtained information where I was told that the cars that slowly rode up to my house were also lined up down the street. Now note, when the individual that came to my house came up, there were no cars in front of my house. They walked to my house, and the direction that the individuals in the cars came from was also from that same direction. I had found out through the report that my husband's mother called the police. And there was no apparent reason other than the fact that I wasn't speaking to her. I wasn't speaking to anybody in my husband's family because of the things that transpired while my husband was in the hospital and afterwards. Now, I don't do drama. I'm not a confrontational person. I'm not aggressive. I don't fight. So you can definitely understand how things that are done in the dark come in the light. And I absolutely understood now how individuals in my husband's family had ill feelings toward me. They did not like me because when you have a good impression of somebody, when you like somebody, when you are on good terms with people, you don't do things like this, especially after you lose a loved one. That's not grief. And the fact that they did this after my husband passed says a lot. And I know we can get into that a little bit later. However, it does point out how my husband did protect me from a lot of stuff and kept me from a lot of stuff because I had no idea that these individuals felt this way toward me. So, of course, I had got on the phone with my parents and I called and I told them what was going on. And so they were on their way. Just to note, before I came up here to meet this individual, I did tell my parents, and they asked if I wanted somebody to come with me, and I said no, because I was only meeting this individual at my house and we never had a problem, no ill feelings, nothing was wrong. Nothing negative was said, so I was definitely confused. We had been having conversations, I had been checking up on them, and at no point in time did they indicate that there was a problem that was going on. This is them coming back up to the house, and they are with the cops. And this time around, when they did get to the door, I'm going through all these emotions. I'm confused, I'm anxious, I'm upset, I'm frustrated. I just experienced a whole bunch of emotions because I'm not understanding why this was going on. And when I did finally understand what was going on, which again, it made no sense, I absolutely slammed the door in the cop's face, and basically the cop ended up saying that if I don't let this individual back into my house, that they were going to allow this individual to break into my house. So of course I don't want my house broken into. I don't have the expense to pay for a break-in. But I did later find out down the line that I don't have to let anybody in my house that I don't want in the house, even if they resided there at one point in time. So this is this individual starting to take items out of the house. And again, I had already agreed that there were some things that they can take out of the house. And I had to speak to them about the fact that this is still our home. My daughter's still living here. And they couldn't just keep on taking items out the house because I haven't even had the chance to sit down and explain to my daughters why people are coming to take daddy's stuff out the house. So I was going to put a pause on that for now so I can breathe, so I can process. I needed some peace. Like being around all these people, it was a lot for me and I needed a minute. And the people standing up over here, again, those are my in-laws. There's one in particular individual that was there that is not my in-law, but is associated with my husband. And they also showed up 2 other times after this incident. While they were outside, the cops did have to tell them to keep it down because they were outside saying things like, I don't know about these Chicago bitches. They should have got me a long time ago, and that I need to go back to Colorado because, of course, I'm not from Chicago. And again, this shows how much dislike these individuals have had toward me, and it had to have been for a while. This right here is the point, I believe, where the cop had threatened to let this individual break into my house if I did not let them back in the house to get their items. And the cops did start to find out what was really going on, and they did tell this individual that they are only allowed to take items out of their room, which later helped me in probate because they got some items of my husband's again, so I was able to use that. And I have no idea why the cops let that individual, who's also associated with my husband's family, park like that in front of them. So the cops also said that I would have to evict this individual from the house. But however, they moved out. So my whole point now was I don't have to evict them. They moved out. I don't have to allow them back in the house. And this is also proof that they moved out of the house. So after seeing that, that is one piece of the experience that I had 3.5 weeks after my husband was buried. And I have had a multitude of other experiences before that, after that, and things that are still going on to this day that I have to deal with in relation to my husband's death. And I just want to come on and spread awareness of some of the continued harm and hurt that occurs after somebody else dies, after a loved one dies, where people start to excuse behaviors as grief. And I would really like it if any of you guys have had any experiences directed towards you after a loved one died that had to do with hostility, aggression, vendettas, backlash. If you can either drop a comment and tell your story, or tag in a video, hashtag that's not grief, because it's important for us to be aware of the things that are not grief and to stop making excuses for people's behavior as grief, because that right there, that's not grief.